Agent Morris with the NSA.
There is something real here.
Did you believe that our government is in possession of UAPs?
Absolutely, based on interviewing over 40 witnesses over 4 years.
And where?
I know the exact locations, and those locations were provided to the Inspector General and some of which to the intelligence committees. I actually had people with the first-hand knowledge provide a protected disclosure to the Inspector General. Biologics came to some of these recoveries. Yeah.
Those could represent exquisite new adversary technology.
Non-human, and that was the assessment of people with direct knowledge on the program I talked to that are currently still in the program.
The government is covering up some level of its knowledge and understanding about what some of those things are.
The Sol Foundation, which just announced a new initiative for UFO research and policy.
It's nuts, man. I mean, we're just small-town buds who saw a UFO in the woods. I mean, now we're hanging out with the government.
Wow. What floor were you guys on?
Hello and welcome to another edition of Anomaly-NOW, straight out of Austin, Texas. I'm your host, Smiles Lewis. This is the weekly, sometimes live news and media roundup for the 501c3 nonprofit organization known as the Anomaly Archives, aka the Scientific Anomaly Institute. Thank you for joining us. It is Wednesday, July 16th, 2025. Whether you're watching this when it's first streaming live, so to speak, on our various streaming platforms, youtube.com/Anomaly Archives or twitch.com or Facebook or wherever we stream it all over the place, or whether you're listening to the audio only version after the fact. Thank you for your support. Please like, subscribe, comment in the comments below, share with people you think would be interested. We always could use your help getting the word out about our nonprofit efforts here in Austin, Texas. We were founded in 2003, so we're over 20 years old, trying to preserve materials related to anomalous phenomena, whether that be the nature of consciousness itself, the anomalous aspects of it like ESP, psi, anomalous cognition, parapsychological research, or just paranormal phenomena, ghosts, hauntings, poltergeists, to ancient civilizations, Bermuda Triangle, anything weird, and of course our favorites, UFOs, UAP, flying saucers, UFOs. Well, yeah. That's the whole gamut. We have over 7,000 books and thousands of magazines, and we could use your help. We have a Patreon you can go to at patreon.com/Anomaly Archives, or of course our main website, anomalyarchives.org. Let's dive right in. There's going to be links over at our website. We post the show notes for each episode over at our website, anomalyarchives.org/video/anomaly-now. And we've got episodes going back to 2020 when we first launched this show. Of course, I've been doing a variety of anomalous UFO paranormal related shows for years and years and years, going back to like 1999, 2000. So last century, man. All right. So yeah, you can go to our website, anomalyarchives.org, and there's tons of links there you can explore. We have an ever-growing catalog of materials online and news and information. You can subscribe for updates about our organization's activities there, or we have an old school, mailing list through MailChimp. But we really, if you really want to support us, the best thing to do is go to our Patreon over at patreon.com/Anomaly Archives, where you can subscribe for free, but we would encourage you to donate as much as you can on a monthly basis. That gives us a real lift up in order to plan to get back into a physical location. We've been without a physical location since February of 2021 due to the ripple effects of the pandemic lockdowns. But yeah, over at patreon.com/Anomaly Archives, tons of great stuff coming out on a regular basis. You can subscribe to our podcasts there as well. And you get your own personalized podcast feed that you can plug into your favorite podcatcher, and which we seed with some rare, not public, mostly audio occasionally. So check that out. Of course, we're going to post the news links for this week's episode in the show notes page for this show at Anomaly Archives. But like I say, you'll want to check that out. Anyway, yeah. But you can, you can go to our Flipboard at flipboard.com/@Anomaly Archives, and then there's a link to click through to get there. And there are thousands and thousands of stories. We just are constantly adding news items, and then we aggregate those and put them into blog posts over at the website. So they're always kind of archived somewhere. And thanks to organizations like archive.org, those internet pages are often archived as well. All right, jumping right in. Coming up next week is our good friend David is hosting a local event, Beers and Alien Cheers #4. The Truth is on Tap. This has been a fun, growing event with a small cadre of folks to start, but we're looking to have some more folks show up. So we would really appreciate it if you would consider coming out. This is not an official Anomaly Archives event, but I do love to attend when I can. This one is coming up on next Tuesday, July 22nd. That's at 7 p.m. Central Time, and it's going to be at Austin Beer Works, which is up in North Austin. I've actually never been there, but it looks like a fun venue, and just really looking forward to seeing David and friends and talking about what we've come across, the kinds of things that we'll be talking about in just a few moments. So check that out. A second annual event that I became aware of is the Texas Spirit Gathering happening in San Antonio, Texas. This looks to be exciting. This is organized by the Austin Seance and a location there in San Antonio called the Villa Finale. And looks to be very interesting. A lot of great folks, including our friend Joseph Laycock and Brandon Hodge and some other folks talking about everything from tracking the vampire next door to Marian apparitions in America to Magic Lantern presentation by Brandon Hodge. That looks interesting. And workshops and ghost hunting. So you can go to TexasSpiritGathering.com and find out more about that. And of course, the link will be in the show notes. Jumping over to other free publications that you can find online. I love it when nonprofit organizations offer free material. Obviously, you need to support them so that they can continue to do that. And one of my favorite organizations is the SSE, that's the Society for Scientific Exploration, who published the JSE, the Journal of Scientific Exploration, Anomalistics and Frontier Science. And over at the webpage for that is this new publication, came out June 30th of this year. It is JSE number 39 to summer for 2025, and you can download the whole PDF, or you can read each PDF article separately. There's an editorial and research articles. Roger Nelson writes on the subterranean chamber of the Pyramid of Khufu, a ritual map of ancient Egypt, ? James Matlock writes on veridical flashbacks and dreams of a pre-Christian life in Norway following a near-death experience in adulthood. And Mark Carlotta has an article, Yugas, Climate Cycles, and World Ages. Climate cycles. We're going to kind of get into that in just a little bit. And there's a brief report from two fellows titled, Who is Calling? An Independent Replication of a Telephone Telepathy Test. Fascinating. And many other sections and subsections that you'll want to check out. Oh, there's something from Stanley Krippner, veteran, old guard of the anthropology, psychedelic shamanism arena. Comment on the Target article, Social Miasm Theory. And it looks like there's several back and forths on social miasm theory, which I am not familiar with, but I've got to find out more. And there are, of course, some book reviews, including one on triangular UFOs of the United Kingdom and other subjects. Great stuff. So all of that is for free over Journal Scientific Exploration, JSE, as published by SSE, the Society for Scientific Exploration. Moving right along. So yeah, climate cycles. So It's getting crazy. Last week we came on the show with heavy heart after the July 4th flooding here in Central Texas that has ravaged the lives of so many people and is having such a huge effect across Texas. I forget the numbers now. I think it's over 130 dead and still about 100 missing, maybe 100 plus missing. And of course, there's all kinds of attempts to try to figure out what has caused this, who's responsible. But it's stories like this that really get me angry. This from news9.com. Anti-government militia group claims responsibility for vandalism to News 9 radar. And it reports how this individual caught on video scaling a fence and then taking a hammer to equipment related to the radar, mainly its power infrastructure, I believe, deliberately because of their belief in the radars being used for weather modification. The article states over at news9.com, an anti-government militia group claims to be responsible for vandalizing News 9's radar. News 9 security cameras captured who police said is Anthony Mitchell, destroying the power supply to News 9's next-gen live radar in northeast Oklahoma City. Mitchell was arrested Tuesday for an unrelated crime. Police have since filed complaints against Mitchell related to the crime, but have not confirmed any connection to the group in question. Now, this article came out July 10th, so just about a week ago. Following his arrest, Veterans on Patrol, an anti-government militia group, claimed responsibility for the vandalism. While it's unknown if Mitchell has ties to the group, its founder, Michael Lewis Arthur Meyer, admitted to encouraging the destruction of weather radars and to targeting another weather radar in Oklahoma earlier this month. The group believes the military is using radars to alter the weather. Quote, "When the military plays God with the weather, they're mocking our Heavenly Father," unquote, said Veterans on Patrol founder Michael Lewis Arthur Meyer. Meyer claims there are no laws that can prevent them from destroying weather radars and describes the methodical process. That is not true. There are laws against that. First of all, it's destruction of private property and trespassing, and I'm sure other laws broken. Quote, "Destroying the backup supply, the cooling network, those items need to be reordered and installed. They will cost a lot of money and time," said Meyer. Meyer claimed his group was watching Oklahoma radars closely. Quote, "We have these towers on observation. We've seen the security increases they are making to protect them," said Meyer. He said beefed up security to protect the radars would not deter the group's work. "Our goal is to take out 15 energy weapons in this state, and we want to do it simultaneously," said Meyer. Mitchell has yet to be formally charged with damaging News 9's radar. Now, there's video clips you can find online besides this one here, which I'm not going to play, but it does seem clear that this is an ever-increasing problem. And the person who's claiming responsibility expresses a wide variety of beliefs in various conspiracies related to, I would describe them as psychotronic mind control type ideas, all of which I'm very well versed in, having published a magazine called ELF, Elf Infested Spaces, back in the 1990s that dealt with the various rumors, myths, conspiracy theories having to do with mind control technologies, which have been researched about the use of electromagnetic waves and sonic waves and various types of radiation and energies to influence human mental ability and physiological responses, but which evolve into ever wackier and sensationalistic claims by people who often feel they are being targeted by these types of technology in what has become known as gang stalking or TIs, targeted individuals. And it would not surprise me if one or more of these people, this particular Veterans on Patrol person mentioned in this article, may be one of those people who considers themselves to be targeted, and that's why they're more susceptible to belief in these kinds of conspiracies. And while again, I know of real research into these areas, it's important to keep an agnostic approach to trying to understand what's going on, and but you should never resort to violence or the destruction of property like this. Meanwhile, over at the Free Press, that's THEFP.com, Meet the Man, conspiracy theorists have blamed for Texas's biblical flood the 25-year-old CEO of Rainmaker on what cloud seeding is and why it's not to blame for the devastating floods in central Texas. This is written by someone named River Page. I'm assuming that's a pseudonym, but maybe not. But yeah, it's an interview with this fellow, Augustus Dorico, who is apparently very young, 25 years old, and has offices in El Segundo, California, and who I believe is involved in cloud seeding work being done here in Texas. And basically they're using drones instead of planes to do the cloud seeding, which is novel. Obviously, that would be probably a cheaper way to do it, though the payload might not be as large. But if you have enough of them, you know. So yeah, this article is very interesting, and it gets to where I'm gonna talk about. This article about midway or a third of the way down says, quote, meet Augustus Dorico, a 25-year-old tech bro and Thiel fellow, as in Peter Thiel, who founded the weather modification startup Rainmaker, wrote one prominent conspiracy influencer on X in a post that received 2.6 million views. Quote, why is a Palantir-connected billionaire funding private weather experiments in Texas? He continued. Why is a 25-year-old with no public oversight allowed to modify the sky? They called it stewarding the natural world. Texas got biblical flooding instead, unquote. Now, yeah, this draws in references to disgraced former National Security Advisor General Michael Flynn, who's had a lot of connections to the QAnon conspiracy theory community. And, you know, obviously there is a lot to digest, but yeah, I bet this guy's getting a lot of angst directed at him. And we've certainly covered the issue of cloud seeding and weather modification and the potential for weather warfare as far back as the 2000s with my good friend Mac White on our show PsyOp Radio, where we interviewed people who had done research into this and noted that, yes, cloud seeding has been going on for a long time. It's still going on. It is regulated here in Texas, as I think it should be. I mean, I do think the potential for modifying weather patterns through the simple act of cloud seeding and other novel techniques is definitely something that should be explored, but certainly there should be oversight and regulation, I think. But of course, there are fears, perhaps for good reason, about the government, the potential for government overstep or corporate overstep, or in this case, a billionaire just funding this kind of thing. But yeah, you can check this out at the Free Press. That's thefp.com. And yeah, it's very interesting that Peter Thiel would be funding this. Make of that what you will. Meanwhile, the Orlando Sentinel via Yahoo News is reporting Florida airports ordered to report, quote, any weather modification activities. This is from Skylar Swisher of the Orlando Sentinel, dated Monday, July 14th. Florida airports soon must submit monthly reports on weather modification activities or face the loss of state funding under a controversial new law derided by critics as fueling conspiracy theories. Florida Attorney General James Uthmeyer wrote to operators of public airports on Monday that their compliance is needed to, quote, catch those who seek to weaponize science, unquote, and will safeguard the atmosphere from, quote, harmful chemicals and experiments, unquote. He says, we need your help to keep our state free and make sure the skies belong to the people, not to private contractors, corporate experiments, or climate extremists, he wrote. In Florida, we don't jeopardize the public health so that we can bend the knee to the climate cult, unquote. signed by Governor DeSantis in June. The law prohibits the release of any substance into the atmosphere in Florida that seeks to, quote, alter weather, temperature, climate, or sunlight intensity. Yeah. This goes on to mention the person we just talked about, the Rainmaker CEO. Where is that in here? But yeah, it's playing up this growing. I thought it was in here. Maybe it's yes. The weather modification ban drew opposition from Augustus Dorico, CEO and founder of the cloud seeding startup Rainmaker Technology Corporation. He testified to lawmakers that cloud seeding is not occurring in Florida, but could be a safe and effective water supply tool. And yeah, apparently it's while I think there is something already on the books in Florida that would allow for it, there's never been any licensing for it, as far as I could tell from this article. So moving right along over at msn.com, there is this Washington Post article reproduced there called How Weather Conspiracy Theories Moved from Online Fringes to State Laws. This gives you a really good sense, a pretty good overview of what we've been discussing here, how these fears about weather modification, about overreach of depopulation agendas by quote unquote elites could be at the heart of the perceived idea that there are some kind of chemicals in airplane contrails that then have become called ever increasingly since the 1990s chemtrails. Again, all of this is understandable to a degree when one already knows the history of the government and the military's use of weather modification in warfare situations, as well as in often secret research where whether it be spreading material in subways or aerosolized spraying over certain areas to do experiments to test for the dispersal of various types of materials and chemicals. And given things like the Tuskegee experiments and the MK Ultra experiments, where so many people were unwitting victims, non-volunteers, who were experimented on by the government and the military and research institutes, it's enough to make you wonder. Now, but again, that should not lead you to go start hurting people or damaging equipment. But you can read a pretty good overview of the history of how this is transitioned. And it basically says what I've been saying, that goes back to the 1990s. I'll never forget how in 2001, with the rise of the Majestic ARG alternate reality game, part of that game involved playing up the chemtrail conspiracy. And in fact, several of the websites that were created to be part of the game, some of which were imitating real news sites, and sometimes they actually seeded fake news articles on real news sites. There were tons of chemtrail related conspiracy websites. So yeah, this goes back quite a ways, and the entertainment industry in that regard is just as guilty as anybody. We should be able to have fun and play games and have wild ideas as be a part of that, but it has gotten out of hand, clearly. This article mentions more than a dozen states have introduced or passed legislation barring what Utmeyer called, quote, geoengineering and weather modification activities. This month, Rep. Marjorie Taylor Greene, Republican Georgia, said she would introduce legislation in Congress mirroring the Florida law. Quote, we must end the dangerous and deadly practice of weather modification and geoengineering. And I will say myself, I am very concerned about the potential misapplication of some of these geoengineering experiments and plans that involve trying to dim the atmosphere to reduce the amount of sunlight coming as a balance to climate change and other weather patterns. But this is not. This is very different, and again, it's all getting conflated in a very mishap kind of way. As I've said, this article does say Discussion around chemtrails began in the late 1990s when conspiracy theorists began propagating the idea that airplanes were spreading toxic chemicals to control the population. According to a study published in 2017, 10% of Americans believe the theory is, quote, completely, unquote, true, while another 20 to 30% believed it is somewhat true. The concept got a huge boost during the COVID-19 pandemic as misinformation spread like wildfire online. And it goes on to give more ideas about that. And then it references, of course, the Oklahoma incident that we were just reporting on. So, bear all that in mind, folks. But, don't forget that one of the basic ideas of climate change is that it significantly impacts the water cycle by increasing the amount of water vapor the atmosphere can hold, leading to more intense precipitation events and potentially exacerbating both floods and droughts. Warmer air, a direct consequence of climate change, can hold more water vapor, and this increased moisture in the atmosphere contributes to a more vigorous water cycle. As I've said to people in response to this current situation of the Central Texas flooding, it really does seem to, as reported by many people, be a combination of various factors. Climate change, overdevelopment, overzealous developer practices that diminish safety requirements and try to increase development in flood-prone areas, outdated FEMA maps, outdated flood data maps, and a clear lack of will to implement the most basic and in some cases very inexpensive alarm systems. These NOAA flood alarm radios are cheap. They are loud and they will get you out of bed and get you to safety. And it's a whole other issue as to whether those alerts go out in time, but and are not delayed for some other reason. But yeah, radars help us make those determinations, both in terms of rainfall and lightning strikes and so many other things, extreme weather. These are not things that should be damaged, vandalized, or just done away with, especially not willy-nilly as some cost-cutting measure by the federal government or state government or local governments. Just use your brains, people. All right. Just some final Texas flood information over at texasobserver.org is this article, this essay by Cheney Hill from July 8th. I remember the 2002 4th of July Hill country floods. This year, the water returned. These floods do not come from nowhere. They are an effect of larger historical, structural, and environmental processes. You can read that over at texasobserver.org. This one from NPR.org. New data reveals FEMA missed major flood risks at Camp Mystic. More cabins and buildings at Camp Mystic, the tragic site of more than 24 deaths in the Texas flood, were at risk of flooding than what the federal government had previously reported, according to new analysis from NPR, PBS's Frontline, and data scientists. Now, I briefly did a stint with a company here in Austin, FDSI, Flood Data Services Incorporated. I met a lot of great people, had friends there that worked with, and enjoyed the work, because basically what we were doing was looking at these FEMA flood maps and trying to determine if someone's home was in a floodplain, and if so, which type, and that determined whether or not flood data insurance was required as part of their attempt to buy this home or something like that. This had been made mandatory, I guess, a few years earlier, and this booming business was sprouting up. And unfortunately, like any business, we humans were adding the data to their automated system to have AI, not really at the time, but their algorithms look at the maps themselves without human interest and make that determination more quickly. So, as so often is the case, we were fueling our own eventual unemployment. But in the meantime, it was good work. I really enjoyed it, even as it did worry me. Like, were these maps accurate? But they were all we had to work with. Another article from TexasTribune.org, Hill Country flooding. Here's how to give and receive help. Oh, well, yeah, that's the link that we provided last show. Hopefully you can donate your time, materials, or help folks out somehow. But this other article from the Associated Press, APnews.com, Texas inspectors approved Camp Mystic's disaster plan 2 days before deadly flood records show. All right, let's take a quick break. All right, we're back. Thank you for joining us. This is Anomaly Now for July 16th, 2025. Let's go to some cryptozoology news. Yes. Thank you, Tim Banal over at coasttocoastam.com. Video, mysterious big cat sighting causes stir in upstate New York. Yes, indeed. Let's watch this video here.
A big cat sighting in upstate New York is sounding more like a Bigfoot sighting. That's because officials can't really confirm it was actually roaming around. The elusive cat was reportedly spotted in Rochester on Wednesday, sort of sauntering down a street. Police say social media video appears to show what is likely a mountain lion, and several people did call about it. It even led to a shelter-in-place order, but that was lifted when they couldn't verify the whereabouts of the lurking lion. Still, neighbors are feeling a tad nervous.
I just see something big just walking, just right over here, right by the bush. It went right over here. I swear, I promise you, it went right over there. And it said, "Rawr!" And I just kept walking. I seen it, seen me, see it. So in my head, I'm like, nah, I gotta go, man. I'm out.
Okay, that's the best soundbite of the whole day. For now, the big cat saga is still a mystery. The Seneca Park Zoo also confirms all of its animals are accounted for.
I know.
I'd like to replay his very visual and
I think I have to agree with him. Soundbite. I think he said he saw it see him,
and he was like, done. I'm out of there.
Hey, I agree with him. Totally.
Safe than sorry.
Exactly.
Right. Yes. All of which reminds me of something I want to play in just a minute here. But yeah, over at SharonAHill.com, she posted about this as well. Not kidding. There appears to be a legit video of a mountain lion walking a residential street in Rochester, New York in the early hours of July 10th, 2025. Usually these videos are questionable in veracity, but in this case, you can see that the animal is large since it passes behind the tree, so we can fairly judge the size. It's not unheard of for a puma to travel from the west through Canada and into the eastern U.S., bypassing the Mississippi, but it is rare to see, or it could be an escaped domestically kept puma. There have been no reports of this, however, though it's probably illegal, and that's probably why no one would report it if they got out. She continues, people from the area are saying that other sightings have been reported to police and that the animal has escaped being cornered. First reported via Ring neighbors and Facebook. The homeowner reported to the news station. It's currently the top story. Yada, yada, yada. She linked to that. And then she also later jokes about that particular news report and how hilarious it was. Which, yeah, it reminds me of something I want to play. Okay, fair warning. This is not safe for work. It's filled with expletives. It's from a comedy from 2006. I first came across this because I heard some of the clips. King of the bleepity bleep jungle and other expletives will be uttered, but that was sampled in a techno song I was listening to some years back, and every time some story like this comes up, I think about it, and I just wanted to play this clip because I'm silly that way. So if you're easily offended, plug your ears.
A rare breed of African lion was captured in a residential neighborhood. Sir, what was going through your head when you came upon the lion?
This shit is fucking crazy. I don't even know how a lion got into the neighborhood.
I heard some growling and shit out in the yard. So my roommate and I, we go to check this shit out. I look up in the tree, and there's the fucking king of the jungle.
You know, you ladies should really get some sleep.
Oh, yes, that's right. We need our beauty sleep because we have to get a lot of things appraised. Come on, baby. Come on.
He was staring right at me. I almost shit my fucking pants. So I ran inside and called the 5-0.
Right. So this is from a 2006 movie called Grandma's Boy. Very silly, obviously. And yeah, there's definitely some questionable aspects to that video clip. I'll let you go check it out and decide for yourself. There's the poster for it. This is not an endorsement of the video or the movie, but I just couldn't help myself. All right. So yeah, besides that, over at mysanantonio.com, we have this article, Big cat sightings. Oh, come on now. mysanantonio.com, big cat sightings in Seguin sparks rumors of extinct Texas animal. This is actually from the middle of May, so 2 months ago. This was reported by Priscilla Aguilar, Aguirre, senior trending reporter. The last confirmed sighting of the rare jaguar was in Brownsville in 1986. You can read or listen to this over at mysanantonio.com. She says, residents near San Antonio may have spotted a cat long believed to be extinct in Texas. In Seguin, locals are comparing recent big cat sightings to the jaguarundi, a small elusive feline related to the jaguar. According to the Texas Parks and Wildlife Department, TPWD, the last confirmed sighting of a jaguarundi in Texas occurred in Brownsville in 1986. Excuse me. In a private Facebook group, residents in Seguin speculated about seeing a cat about 28 to 32 inches long along Link Road and State Highway 46 in Seguin, about 35 miles east of San Antonio. One resident described it as a long, brownish, grayish cat, noting it didn't resemble a bobcat or mountain lion. However, many residents mentioned it could be jaguarundi. Yeah, so very interesting. There's more to that article you can read over there, some pictures. But yeah, that was from May here in the Central Texas area. All of which reminds me of how back in 2002, I guess it was, or 2002, 2003, when we launched Austin Paratimes, APT, the paranormal and parapolitical news paper magazine here in Austin, Texas. This is an archive of the old website from back then. We ran my friend Chester Moore Jr.'s article, Black Panthers Verified in the Lone Star State. And I'll provide the links to that. This is, of course, via archive.org, but we'll be, we of course have our own archive of this as part of the Anomaly Archives. And yeah, Chester wrote, Black Panthers Verified in the Lone Star State. Scientists admit there are black panthers in the United States. These black panthers aren't a new discovery, and they come in a slightly different package than some would imagine. According to U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service officials, the jaguarundi, Felis jaguarundi, is known to range from South America to Texas, and although not widely known by the public, jaguarundis are prime candidates for spawning black panther reports. They are a medium-sized cat with a mean body size of 102 centimeters for females and 114 for males, according to Mexican researcher Arturo Caso. Other sources list them as ranging from 100 to 128 centimeters with the tail, making up the greatest part of the length. Most specimens support a dark gray color, while others are chocolate brown or blonde. A large jaguarundi crossing a road in front of a motorist or appearing before an unsuspecting hunter could easily be labeled a quote-unquote black panther. Since very few people are aware of jaguarundis, it's highly unlikely they would report seeing one. The term black panther, however, is quick and easy to report to others. Everyone can relate to a quote-unquote black panther. It is commonly believed jaguarundis in the United States are only found in areas along the Mexican border. Texas Parks and Wildlife, TPWD biologist Terry Turney says differently. Turney is now an endangered species specialist in West Texas, but spent the early part of his career on the upper Texas coast near Port Arthur, managing the J.D. Murphy Wildlife Management Area, WMA. On this 30,000-acre tract of mixed coastal prairie and marsh, according to Turney, is a population of jaguarundis. Anyway, I'll provide the link. You can read the rest of that. But yeah, it was again, these are subjects that we've been covering for a long time. And of course, this was before I founded the Anomaly Archives. I was editing the Austin Para-Times, and I was the one who was finding these articles through my network of researchers. That includes Chester Moore Jr., who is still actively involved in all kinds of research along these lines. Moving right along, some other cryptozoological news headlines from over at thunderbirdphoto.com. More news on thunder crows just from my birthday, June 12th. The author writes, since I published my recent article about thunder crows seen around the Hoh rainforest in Washington state, fellow Fortean researchers have shared with me some frankly jaw-dropping information that appears to support the idea of there being abnormally large cryptid corvids in the Pacific Northwest. First, Dr. Carl Schucker sent me a link to an article he wrote in 2017 titled, Are Giant Flightless Ravens Something to Crow About in Canada? Dr. Schucker provided commentary on a report from the Crypto Dominion website that was brought to his attention in 2012, although the original story is undated. On a list of unrecognized birds of prey, Crypto Dominion included a mystery species it called the British Columbian giant raven. Although the author qualified the story as a, quote, piece of local folklore, they stated that enormous ravens, larger than golden eagles, inhabit a valley that is rich in timber and nestled within the interior of British Columbia. Crypto Dominion suggested that the British Columbian giant raven is a specialized species which developed in the isolation of their home valley. And you can read the rest of this over at thunderbirdphoto.com. Wow, fascinating. Yeah, and on our recent trip to Golden, Colorado, west of Denver, we were seeing, I don't know if they're technically ravens or what, but they are the biggest black corvids I have ever seen in my life. The ones that are here in Austin, which really I feel like were only prevalent here in the last 15 to 20 years. I don't remember seeing them as a child. Just the grackles were the most common, and then starlings, and now these big black birds, whatever they are, ravens or crows or whatever. But these ones in Golden, Colorado were even bigger. Anyway, yeah, let's see. And then a couple of Bigfoot stories. This both from our friend Tim Benall over at coasttocoastam.com. Thank you, Tim, for combing the news outlets and finding these stories. This one, group stumbles upon Sasquatch while searching for lost camper in Arizona. He writes, 3 people assisting in the search for a woman lost in the Arizona wilderness stumbled upon what they suspect was a Sasquatch roaming around the area. The remarkable sighting was reported to the Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization, that's BFRO, by witness Amber Webster. She explained that the encounter occurred on June 15th as she, her husband, and his cousin were looking for lost camper Janelle Banda, who had disappeared while visiting an area near Sedona dubbed the Edge of the World. Whilst using a spotlight to illuminate a wooded area at night, the trio were stunned when they spotted something significantly stranger. Also over at Coast to Coast AM is this link to a video. Watch Argentina's Bigfoot filmed running across a field. Now, yeah, if I clicked through, watched the video, it is, again, it's at such a distance. It could be anybody. It'd be so easy to fake this kind of thing by having somebody in a ghillie suit, especially somebody already of significant height or girth or stature. But here it is. You can check it out there. All right, we're going to take another break and we'll be right back. All right, welcome back. Thank you for sticking with us. So let's jump into our UFO portion of tonight's broadcast. We, of course, continue to update our Flipboard feed as well as the website. We have pages for the 2 different recent Wall Street Journal articles. The part 1 dealing with what's been described as the Yankee Blue UFO hazing ritual by the Air Force and other military personnel. And as people react to that, we've updated that webpage as well. I've already said my piece about that for now, but obviously this is going to be something that continues to reverberate for quite some time. But you can find those links in our Flipboard feed as well as over at the website under the Yankee Blue UFO webpage, as well as our Arts Parts page that covered part 2, whose title at the Wall Street Journal was it scrap metal or an alien spacecraft? The Army asked an elite defense lab to investigate. Oh, I'm not sure if I flipped this or not, but I did put it in this page. Again, Micah Hanks a year ago did a great show for part of his public show, the Roswell Material, Oak Ridge and Arrow Analyze Arts Parts. That was over a year ago, with some great resources in his show notes links, which we've reproduced here as well. Highly recommend you check out Micah Hanks' reportage on all these subjects. But then just this past week, July 12th, on his X podcast, that's for subscribers only, but he played the rest of a recent interview that he did with Dr. Matthew Zydagis. That's Zydagis, Zydagis. That at the end of the interview, they talk about the doctor's analysis of those arts parts and his results compared to those of Oak Ridge National Laboratories. And he is making, I would say, highly inflammatory comments about how poor the Oak Ridge National Laboratories report appears to be, and how his evidence-based research contradicts it, or at least calls it into question. And he says he's not criticizing the scientists. He suspects it may have to do with funding issues, but he doesn't quite understand that explanation either. But so there's some interesting stuff there. Plus just other great talk about his other recent papers that you should check out, which I don't have the link to right now. But anyway, I wasn't planning on mentioning that, but I wanted to, because I think it's really important and worth your attention. And something else that really deserves your attention, our good friend Miguel Romero, aka RPJ, Red Pill Junkie, over at dailygrail.com, has this absolutely great op-ed essay of roadside picnics and disclosure stalkers. This is a very nice, lengthy essay where he is just kind of collecting his thoughts on a wide-ranging area of thought that starts with the novel Roadside Picnic that was later adapted into the famous, infamous sci-fi Russian film Stalker. And along the way, he makes so many bold and interesting observations that I hesitate to try to encapsulate it, but I just really want to direct your attention to it and encourage you to go read it, and read it all the way through. It's really worth it, I think. And it really gave me a much deeper appreciation of the film Stalker and its relevance to these different ideas. He touches on this idea that has come about through the works of Diana Pasulka and Jacques Vallée, that somehow the UFO is seeding technology with us, but maybe that's not in our best interest. So there's some very, very interesting, thought-provoking commentary here. And as he warns, there are mild spoilers related to the story of the film Stalker. But yeah, definitely check it out. Really worth it. And I'll just read a little bit here where he says early on, but even if we could figure out the most basic functions behind some of the simplest alien gadgets, a la arts parts, like Leonardo da Vinci finding a modern garage opener in his Renaissance studio and discovering he could turn on its lights if he pressed the right button, without proper context, the ultimate purpose of any cultural object produced by a non-human species remains inscrutable. To truly understand the purpose of a garage opener, for example, not only do you need a sense of what a car is, you also need to understand the social concepts of ownership and theft, which would be meaningless to an alien culture in which material possessions are not coveted. Not to mention that you also need to be close to the garage door in order to activate its mechanism. The only discernible fact about the alien visit in Roadside Picnic is that it happened, and the only scientific revolution that can be expected with any certainty is derived from answering one of the most fundamental questions of our existence. Man is indeed not alone. There is at least one other form of intelligence sharing the universe with us. Ants rejoice, for one day we might be all stamped out for no particular reason. And what is intelligence anyway? How can we best define it? And are we sure we would be able to recognize it as such if it came from a mind not evolved on planet Earth? Anyway, it goes on. There's some great commentary here, and it gets into this how we're destroying ourselves and how we know each other by our refuse. Homo plasticus we are. Again, I don't want to do any spoilers on this essay, but I just, well, actually, where's the bit on the gifting fields? I did want, right. So towards the end, he says, the characters in Roadside Picnic are shown wrapping their heads over the meaning of the alien visit. Maybe it really was a meaningless fluke, like the title and the ants analogy implies. Or maybe it was a test of sorts. Some characters imagine or hope with the aliens leaving behind their cruel miracles to see what we do with them. Will the ants ever learn to use a cigarette lighter to bring light and heat into their hill, or will they burn themselves to smithereens? Nowadays, there is a new term used by UFO personalities, including Valet, oddly enough, applied to the alleged crash sites, the gifting fields. This is worrisome because it implies not only a human-like quality to the psychology of the aliens, but a philanthropic motivation by leaving behind these artifacts on purpose. Was philanthropy what compelled white settlers to hand out blankets infected with smallpox to the Indians who refused to fall in line with their expansionist plans? It is a gift, says Boromir at the site of the One Ring during the Council of Elrond in the Fellowship of the Ring movie. How would Boromir look wearing the clothes of a Silicon Valley techpreneur, I wonder? No self-respecting geek needs to be reminded of the moral lesson behind the trilogy. The only solution towards the awesome power of the ring is to reject it, like Galadriel does, and destroy it, like Frodo manages to do at the end, with little help from Gollum, of course. Anyway, and there are so many parallels there to techpreneurs, tech bros like Peter Thiel, who loves to name all his scary stuff after names from the Lord of the Rings without any seeming appreciation for how evil it all seems. Now, some other fun stuff I want to recommend. There's got 3 different YouTube videos that I want to recommend. One is this nice little storytelling video. My dad was 50 feet from a flying saucer. This is a really interesting story from somebody whose YouTube channel normally is just like, I guess, his own created music, not a UFO channel, but apparently his dad has been telling the story for years about he and 3 other people witnessing a 40 to 50 foot diameter flying saucer on a night when they were out to go necking. And this was along a river where a lot of different UFO sightings were happening that very night and in the days surrounding it. I believe they say it was in 1974. And I believe it's right near Point Pleasant. So it's in that same area that Mothman and the terrible Silver Bridge collapse occurred, but years later. So an area prone to UFOs, but it's very fun. It's about 15 minutes long. And then there's like a follow-up video that's like 6 minutes long. And it's his dad's voice telling the story. And who knows if this is true? You know, I don't know that anybody's investigated this, but it has the ring of truth. And I very much enjoyed it. And I think you will too. Some other videos that you might want to check out. This one over at, actually, I guess that other one is not 1974. This flying saucer one is not 1974. I forget what year. Maybe it's 78. It's said in the video. But this next one is definitely 1974. And that is over at WVIA, a local news station's website. Did aliens really visit this small town, Carbondale, Pennsylvania, in 1974? Was it a UFO, a meteor, a Russian satellite? The Carbondale UFO incident of November 9th, 1974 remains one of Pennsylvania's most debated mysteries. Anyway, it's a very nicely done, short 11-minute video, short documentary. Doesn't come up definitively, but I think they do a really good job of providing a balanced approach to this kind of thing. And so I would encourage you to watch that as well. Obviously, the town is profiting and off of its reputation because of this event, and but God bless them. They probably need it. Anyway, it's very interesting. I encourage you to go check it out. Also, this over at the KSL News Utah station, exploring the UFO Valley campground in Utah. So apparently, and I've been getting this sense from some other folks that I've spoken with, the landowners around Skinwalker Ranch now seem to be cashing in on its reputation, and so this campground apparently overlooks that area, is nearby, and so they're basically marketing it as UFO Valley, as a chance to see UFOs in the night sky there. So that's kind of cute and interesting. It's about 4 minutes long. But yeah, you'll want to check those out. There's, of course, a ton more UFO links, news links over at the Flipboard. And I'm not going to go through all those, but there are some great there's this new paper online from the Journal of New Paradigm Research by our good friend, local UFO enthusiast, UAP researcher, who is one of the co-founders or the earliest members of the SCU, the Scientific Coalition for UAP Studies, SCU, Scientific Coalition for UAP Studies. ExploreSCU.org is their website. And the research article is titled "Evolving Paradigms in the Search for Advanced Extraterrestrial Intelligence." And we've got 2 different links for it, and you can download that. And it's very brief. It's only about 27 pages, but you'll want to go check that out. And that is available for free and looks to be a fun read. Okay, there are other news article headlines I am not going to get to tonight, but just to rattle off some of those. Let's see, as soon as this loads here, of course, you can go to flipboard.com/@Anomaly Archives, and let's see, some of the headlines that you might want to check out in our consciousness, health, and mind-body connections arena. How coffee stains inspired a breakthrough in rapid disease detection. The phytosense dogs as sensors for UAP and revisiting perception studies. Another one, is our brain a time machine? Study reveals we might be seeing the past, not the present. As well as, and that one's from economictimes.indiatimes.com, which, yeah, that's not always a great resource, but I believe they link to the research. Rupert Sheldrake has a new one, Psychedelic Experiences, What Insights Can They Give Us? This is very much relevant. I've talked to people many times over the years about how I think an understanding of psychedelics and their effect on human perception and their ability to help us tap into anomalous cognition is worthy of exploration and research. In the realm of paranormal, parapsychological, and spiritualism research, there is a video interview by John G. Kruth, who is the executive director of the Ryan Research Center in Durham, North Carolina. That's on YouTube. There's a text interview with Emeritus Professor of Philosophy Stephen Broad discussing psychokinesis and paranormal phenomena, and that is over at, of all places, bloody-disgusting.com. And some other headlines real quickly. Japan storm fires record number of gigantic jets into space with video. That's over at abovethenormnews.com. And then we have a follow-up on that video we played last week of ball lightning in Canada. This over at sciencealert.com. Ball lightning caught on film after storm in Canada. It gives a good breakdown of the history of thoughts and research into ball lightning, some evidence that may point to its validity as a actual real phenomena, which I think it pretty much is. It's just we don't really understand it or have very good evidence of it yet. But that seems to be changing. And then lastly, why do killer whales keep handing us fish? Scientists unpack the mystery. This one from over at ScienceDaily.com. But anyway, that's going to be it for today. Thank you for joining us. I really appreciate you hanging with us. And if you will, like, subscribe, all that good stuff, and check us out. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Oh